Morning, everybody. I'm calling to order.
Go ahead.
Sorry.
Wherever your sound is.
It's a new computer. I don't know. Back. It's not that I am opposed to feedback, but it wasn't the right kind of feedback, I'll say. So good morning, everybody. I'm calling to order the Tuesday, October 15th, Planning, Energy, and Environmental Quality Committee. So thanks, everybody, for joining us here in person. And we also, we have 3 legislators here in person, so we do have a quorum here. And we have 2 members attending remotely who will be participating in the discussions and also voting, and that's Greg Mezey and Randy Brown. And for the folks here in person, since we have some folks from different organizations and departments, why don't we go around and introduce ourselves. I'm Annie Koreman, County Legislator and Chair of this committee, and I'll pass it this way.
Diane Cohen, CEO of Finger Lakes Reuse.
Robin Elliott, COO of Finger Lakes Reuse.
Hi, Amanda Champion, Legislator. I'm Kate Darfler, the Chair of the Environmental Management Council.
Hello, Leo Riley, the Director for Recycling and Materials Management.
Norma Jane, Deputy County Administrator.
Brittany Greep, Chief Deputy Clerk of the Legislature.
Veronica Pillar, Tompkins County Legislator.
Thank you, everybody. And so do we have any public comment? I don't see anybody here. Okay, so we don't have any public comment today. So next is any changes to the agenda. Are folks okay? We have a few, like I said, department heads. Are people okay with the order that we have things in? Okay, so next we'll go to minutes approval, and we have August 12th, 2024, and September 9th, 2024 minutes in our agenda. Could somebody move those? Moved by Amanda, seconded by Veronica. And any discussion on those? Suggested edits? Okay, seeing none, we're going to do roll call votes today since we have 2 members attending remotely, and I'll go in the same order just so you know when your turn is up. I'll do the 2 members here in person so the other folks can get their mics ready. Veronica, how do you vote?
Yes.
Amanda?
Yes.
And Greg?
Yes.
Randy?
Yes.
And I'm a yes, so the minutes pass unanimously. Next up, chair's report. I don't have a chair's report today, so we'll go right into the Environmental Management Council. So we have a resolution that I'm going to ask to go on the floor. This is approval of the amended bylaws, and we have some manifest changes that are on our desks. And Brittany, did they get it in the email?
They have not yet. I'm in the process of doing that right now.
Okay. So while we're getting that on the floor, let me ask first, Kate, do you have any updates you want to say while we're waiting for the members to get these in email?
Mostly what I was going to tell you guys about this is, although we have been working on this really for the past year, I've been thinking about these bylaws for maybe almost 3 years, trying to bring them up to date. They hadn't been touched since 1999, so it had been a while since these had been updated. And it was obviously a little harder to read, and we wanted to allow just clarity. And then we heard that the Tompkins County was redoing their template for bylaws, so we kind of sat on them for a little while and didn't do much. And then, so we're very excited. So In the copy that you've gotten so far, everything in purple is text that we added. I tried to make it really clear how it adjusts from the template, and everything in black was from the original template. Although the main categories didn't change, some of the key pieces within them changed. A lot of this was brought in from the 1999 version that we had, and also I relied heavily on the Broome County EMC's bylaws, which were pretty recently updated. The substantive changes were a little bit on our purpose, actually. We really clarified that as to where our role is versus maybe other roles. The purpose statement from 1999 is one paragraph, one sentence long. So we really tried to break that out and be a little bit more clear on our goals as a council. And then the other major thing that changed was changing out how quorum is established. And previously, we were allowed a flexible number of members, and it made establishing quorum very challenging. And to align with the county's priorities, we are moving to a fixed number of voting members, which actually reduced our overall seats by a few, but we actually we didn't have to kick anyone off as a voting member because we had so many vacancies with all of our extra seats that we had, and we were able to shift around seats. So all of the cities and towns still have a representative, which you'll be able to see, I guess, in the second resolution. And then we also have a few at-large members. So the villages did lose having their representative seat, but villages are actually kind of encompassed within the town, and the villages don't have their own conservation advisory committees. The towns are the ones that have those encompassing advisory committees. So the villages are still represented in the town membership. So like I was the representative for Trumansburg, I will lose that seat, but I will still be an at-large member on the council. And then Trumansburg is still captured in the fact that the town of Ulysses still has a representative seat on the EMC. So those were kind of the big changes that had happened and that you'll see here. Oh, the other thing that happened was the way the previous bylaws happened, the vice chairs are elected in December, but then the chair is not elected until January, but our organizational meeting is in January, which makes planning for your organizational meeting very challenging if you don't know who your chair is going to be in January. And so we were doing a lot of this presumptive stuff, which just felt not great. And so we're trying to align that all so that the vice chairs and the chair are elected in January and can then jointly plan together for the January meeting. So I guess that's the other big major piece that changed.
Thank you. Why don't, I'll see if we have a motion to put this on the floor. Moved by Amanda, seconded by Veronica. And any discussion from the group? Amanda.
Well, thank you. I know this is a huge effort, and I appreciate you using the template and, following through with all of that. Just one question and then one change. Did you used to have high school or college students?
You're right. Good. Sorry, I forgot about that. No, we did not. That is also a new change. Something, I guess maybe I even reported on this. I guess it was 2 years ago, I had met with the Broome County EMC, and they had talked about the fact that they have student members and how much they enjoyed student members. And this is something that I have been passionate about for like 3 years when I first started about changing bylaws. And I really wanted to give students an actual voting seat. And learning from Broome, they said bring 2. So always make sure there are at least 2, so they're not just one representative there. And so yes, officially getting high school members under the age of 16, 16 and over. Yeah. So it could be high school or college students as voting members on the EMC. And we actually, since I put out a call, we've had 2 students attending regularly to our meetings already, one from Ithaca and one from Dryden. So already, because I said, well, we can't do it yet, but if you wanted to, then you'd have, and their terms are different. Their terms are set as September to September 1st, I believe, Brittany, right? So that it aligns with their school year, which is off cycle from the rest of the EMC members.
Right.
But yeah.
That's great. I love that. And I've, had contact with high school students in the past who I would have said, this is perfect for you.
Right.
So, yes. Okay, and then we talked a little bit before the meeting started just about So there is a change that Brittany gave us to add in the one non-voting county legislator liaison.
This is Article 3, under membership, Section 2, term of membership.
Right, so I think that line should probably be up in the previous section under membership.
Can you say that again? So it's Article 3, membership.
3, membership.
Under term of membership,
Part
number 2?
Yep, and
Okay.
then bullet E, we're saying should probably be moved up into part
number
1.
one. Is that okay, Brittany?
So actually, now that I'm reading this, I'm wondering if E and F there that were added should both be added above
Yeah.
in membership.
Because it's not talking about the term of that one
Right.
Um,
necessarily.
Yeah, okay.
Just
so-
in the membership section, number 1 under membership, rather than number 2
Yep.
under terms.
We'll
Okay.
just move them to the previous section.
So they would go into be F and G in
Yep. Yes.
1. So for folks, just for transparency of folks watching this meeting, so it's adding in, there shall be one non-voting county legislator liaison seat to the EMC selected annually, and any other county liaisons shall serve at the pleasure of the legislature chair.
And then just a tiny little thing, just about the word selected. And I was kind of trying to remember, they're not, are they appointed? So, okay, so they're not, so this committee just discusses who, okay.
Yeah,
So
and
selected,
then whoever's the chair of the legislature confirms that at the
Okay.
subsequent
meeting.
legislature meeting. Yep.
okay, thanks.
So selected okay then?
Yeah, I
Okay.
think selected is okay. And I think that's all I got.
Okay, thank you. Randy?
Yes, thank you. I guess 25 years is probably soon enough to rewrite the bylaws, so thanks for doing that. You mentioned prior that the purpose that you had before was one sentence in one paragraph. For people that are listening that maybe can't see your document, could you quickly highlight what the most important additions you made were?
Yeah, so one of the things was just kind of calling out the history of how the EMC was put together. So the original line, I can read it, says, "The purpose of the Environmental Management Council shall be to identify problems, propose priorities, promote coordination of activities in the development and management of our natural resources, and to provide a public forum for the discussion and resolution of these problems and completion of proposed projects." A little bit of a mouthful there. So honestly, we just took that and kind of pulled it out. We talked about the fact that in the new one that you can see, our purpose, I lost the page, states the history that it actually, a lot of the purpose is set forth in environmental law from the New York State in Article 47 of Environmental Conservation Law. The one that we did talk about is we added in environmental justice and kind of how we engage with citizens in there, and that is an issue that has been brought up within our council a few times, that we really want to start looking at things under that lens. And just one of the things that we sort of do at the EMC is, you know, we have the UNAs, the unique natural areas are really kind of crucial to part of what the EMC does. And so we kind of pulled that in as a specific thing. It's like the long-term plans to protect the county's resources. It was kind of in there already, the development and management of natural resources, but it was a rewording to be a little bit more accurate to what we were doing.
Yeah, the unique natural areas, the UNAs you talked about, yeah, they're fascinating. I was on the planning board, and so we looked at all those closely and visited them from a distance, some of them. I think one of the things that's missing is an understanding of the access to some of those facilities, where so much nature abounds us, and it'd be nice to somehow, without messing them up, people could understand how they could access them.
Yeah, that's something we've struggled with. So we're actually in the process of doing our UNA update. Our next meeting will actually be a public meeting I'll look up the date. I'll make sure I get it to you guys before the end of this meeting. It's going to be at the library on the UNA update. Many of the UNAs reside on private property. And so there's a real hesitancy to say where they are, to like let them out, you know, and we don't go on most of them. But you're right, a bunch of them are publicly accessible. And that's something that we want to do, is try to figure out how do we, in this new mapping, show which ones can be accessed by the publics, and then also been keeping the ones that are private on private property private.
Yeah, I actually have dealt with that. And it is tough because the owners are worried about liability.
Yeah.
I mean, some of these places are gorgeous things and people could get hurt. And so and sometimes it really just ruins a plan.
Yes.
Of even just coming close to the areas or walking around them. But yeah, maybe there's some way that we could take some liability away from people if something really made sense, you know. Thank you.
Yeah, and that's something I think also we want to work with the towns, which are most of them are in each municipality. And a lot of them are, you know, ones that are publicly accessible are already public parks. And you don't, when they're identified as unique natural areas specifically because of a species present, you really don't want people showing up there trying to get pictures or collect any samples of it. So it's a delicate balance, I get you.
Yeah, it reminds me of an extended family member that every spring would come with this terrarium of different, you know, things, and, you know, and they were saying, I can't tell you where I got them, but, you know, they were very delicate little things, and, you know, bring them in so you could look at them all winter, and then they die. So, so yeah, we have to be careful because people do like to take samples and things like that. But thank you for bringing that up, Randy, too, to have, because as we all know, that when people actually see what's out there and they're out in nature, then they always protect it more, too. And I wanted to thank Brittany, too, for the extensive help in redoing these bylaws. So thank you so much. And so we ready for a vote?
Yes.
All right. Amanda?
Yes.
Veronica?
Yes.
Randy? Oh, I'm sorry.
Yes.
I was going to go in the same order. Greg?
Yes.
And I am a yes, so that's unanimous. That passes. So thank you, everybody who worked on that. And the next one is also from the EMC. This is the resolution number 12807, staggering the terms of the Tompkins County Environmental Management Council beginning January 1st, 2025. Would someone like to move that one? Moved by Veronica, seconded by Amanda. Is there anything you wanted to say about this one, Kate?
This is just taking the fact that we removed so many seats, consolidating them down, and then worked really heavily with Brittany to make sure that the terms are staggered so that we only have half of the members changing over each year, with the exception of the student membership. Just hopefully to make things clear on their end and on our end as well.
Okay, and I'm assuming that, Veronica, you were moving the revised one with the manifest changes that's on our
yes.
desk? Okay. And what were the manifest changes that were added on our desk here? Brittany, can you tell us that?
It was mostly just formatting and
Okay.
including the exact date that the expiration dates will be. So December 31st for the regular members, and then September 1st for the student members.
Okay, versus the year it was before. Okay. Any questions on this, comments? All right, why don't we go ahead and vote? Amanda?
Yes.
Veronica?
Yes.
Greg?
Yes.
Randy?
Yes.
And I'm a yes, so that passes unanimously. Well, so thanks, everybody. Any other updates from EMC while you're here, Kate?
While I'm here, let me get you guys the date of that UNA public meeting. Will be on Wednesday, November 13th. I believe it is at 6 p.m. at the public library in the Borg Warner East or West, I don't know which side. And that will be our public meeting for the UNA. And residents will be getting postcards out, being sent out, I think almost 1,500 or so postcards going out to all the UNA landowners. So there'll be hopefully a lot of people learning more.
So that's the public unique natural areas meeting, Wednesday, November 13th at the county library. And what was the time?
6 p.m.
6 p.m. All right. Any questions, any other updates?
That's the most of it.
And we were talking on the way in here that, you know, the EMC and I know the case board and other organizations are ready to help with the updating of the hazard mitigation plan, because as we've seen with the disastrous events happening with Hurricane Helene and other natural disasters, it's going to take pretty much all boots on the ground. And as much as we can all be a part, you know, I see everybody in this room is probably going to be a part of that, you know, to prepare and to activate if we should have a disaster. So thank you so much.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, guys.
And next, we have Finger Lakes reuse, and there's a presentation in your packet. And I don't have the page, but there's a presentation in your packet. And do you have a slideshow or a PowerPoint?
Yes. Looking at this interface.
You're on Zoom, I see. Okay, we're working on getting that set up.
There we go. Okay.
Packet page 23, it starts. And we're getting that queued up.
Great. Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Ready to go?
Yeah,
well,
go ahead.
Thank you for the invitation. We're really happy to be here. Finger Lakes Reuse is in the beginning of a strategic planning process, and I wanted to be able to give this committee, and we're trying to talk to as many of our stakeholders as possible early in the process to get feedback. So I'm going to kind of clip through this slideshow, which is already in your packet anyway, and really what I'd like to do is leave as much time for conversation and questions and any further information we can start to gather to continue to kind of create clarity around what our work is here in this community. So here's a quick timeline. We're working through spring of next year in the stakeholder engagement, and obviously Tompkins County is a major stakeholder for us, but how many people here have donated to Finger Lakes Reuse? Yeah, so everyone's a stakeholder, I mean, really, and in different ways. So, and thank you for bringing us stuff. So at very high level, these are our, right now, our draft strategic goals: to decrease waste through materials reuse, to balance people, planet, and profit in all of our operations, and to help our communities build a circular economy. Behind this, and I don't have it in this slide deck, but if you want to geek out with us on strategic planning, there are sub-goals for each of these main goals, and then behind each sub-goal, we have SMART goal tactics, and we have a whole spreadsheet on that, and if anyone would really like to see that, we've got that in draft form right now, but we're still working on what our main goals are through our feedback process. Part of the strategic planning process is to review the history, and I think it's important to tell this group in Tompkins County, we were founded on request of Tompkins County as a public-private partnership. There was a reuse center in its 20-year solid waste management plan, and Barb Ekstrom and Jonathan Wood, who is the county attorney, was one of our original planning partners. Tompkins County also funded Cooperative Extension to give us technical assistance, so Tanya Schussler was there in the early years, and Tanya, Barb, and then Mark Darling, who was at Ithaca College, became our founding board. And we had all the colleges represented, and then I was at Historic Ithaca at the time, and then we relied on NYCON, New York Council of Nonprofits, to help set up our nonprofit structure, because we really wanted to be in compliance as a community organization. Our mission's to enhance community, economy, and environment through reuse. And our founding goals are to reduce waste, relieve poverty, and teach skills through reuse activities. And our vision is of a just, resilient, and waste-free world that values people and resources. This is a photo from 2019, I think. We've got more than double the staff now. And so here's a timeline really quickly. We were in about a 2.5-year planning process, which there's a report on our website if anyone's interested. It called for 65,000 square feet and also identified, if what would motivate you to donate materials and what would motivate you to purchase used materials. And it was convenience and affordability, so we really have been straining to provide those two as part of our strategy. With furniture, building materials, and household items, 65,000 square feet was what we thought we needed, and we started in 7,000, and you can see on the column on the right how we've grown, and with the storage warehouses, we're now up to 70,000. I also just want to note that after we opened and got into computers and electronics in 2010, we were really overwhelmed with the volume of material that came at us, and that's when we got into workforce development, and really that's helped propel the organization. It's become a really important part of what we're doing. Won numerous awards, most recently National Disabilities Employment Awareness Month, really proud of that, but proud of all of these. And community impacts, last year we gave away nearly $200,000 in store credits to 800 families, and at our prices, less than 50% of what's new. It could be close to $500,000 in relief that Finger Lakes Reuse was able to provide. But I think the biggest impact that we do that's really unheralded and hard to measure is the opportunities for self-empowerment that we see happen every day in our reuse centers. Economic impacts are profound as well. On the right, that's a infographic from a report that's linked here, but happy to share it. It's an economic impact analysis that Tom Knipe was teaching a class at Cornell, so he oversaw that project, and these numbers are through, they're 5-year numbers through 2022, so I have some updated numbers later in the slideshow, and we now have 86 living wage employees. Environmental impacts also, fairly obvious, and with what may not be as clear is that the DEC is saying that there's 19 years left of permitted capacity in our municipal solid waste landfills, and if we can't landfill the materials, we're going to incinerate them, and that is not a good alternative, even though there is some claim that waste to energy is a positive. It's the most toxic and most expensive way to to create energy. And meanwhile, people are consuming more than ever. Really, really delighted with our collaborative partnerships with Crowd and Cornell. We just last week published a white paper on building materials and deconstruction in New York State and the economic impacts that are profound. If you get a chance, if you want a 45-minute digest of it, it's not on the Crowd website yet, but it will be some of the researchers presenting the paper and the impacts in a really compelling way. They just did that on last Monday. And we wouldn't have done all this without many, many supporters. So here's a quick flash of our partners and supporters. Really grateful to them and to the Tompkins County for all the support we've had over the years. So, our challenges are also opportunities. The growth that we've been experiencing, 30% since 2017, has been really challenging. Our business growth was 20% for a decade up until 2022, when we've kind of plateaued because we're just very overwhelmed. We've been in an overwhelmed state. It's not that we don't have the stuff to put on the shelves, and actually we have space on the shelves. Our staff is is saturated and distracted by trying to manage the volume of materials that's coming in. We grew our business by $1 million just from 2019, 2020 to 2022. And the green here is our earned revenues over the last 5 years. The yellow is foundation grants and individual giving and corporate contributions. And then the blue is the government funding that we've had to do this. And the dark blue is Tompkins County represented there. And then this is our total revenues and our total expenses. And you can see we had significant losses in 2022 and 2023, exceeding $250,000 a year. We're working hard to close that gap, and we're trending in the right direction, but it's been very, very challenging to do that. And here's really the big issue. The top line, someone called it butterscotch, is our donation drop-offs every day. It's vehicles coming to donate. So we're close to 200 a day now. Back in 2017, it was 40 a day. And then the blue—
Is that 200 people?
200 vehicles.
200 vehicles a day.
Yep. And then the blue and the green lines are our number of employees, and our full-time equivalent is the dashed green line. So you can see we haven't been able to keep up with that, even though we are continuing to get more and more efficient, and we're doing more with our growth, but that's been a great challenge right there. So here's up close 3 years of sales. You can see the plateau where we've been doing pretty much the identical sales. We've been budgeting for conservative growth. We've been averaging 20%, so we were budgeting for it, but we're not making those goals. But what's really key to notice, and I want to show you this about our business, we have identified for more than a decade a sales to production ratio. So for every $100 of material we put on the floor, the sales floor, that we price and put on the sales floor, we sell $60 to $70. So if we need to do $7,000 in sales, and that's what we do at least pretty much every day, we need to put $10,000, our prices of stuff, out on the sales floor. And so this next slide, you can see this is our production. So I'm going to go back. We're averaging about $200,000.
Can I just ask you a quick question in there, just so we understand that? Can you explain that? The difference in the numbers?
Yeah, so there's a number of discounts. Super reusers get 10% off, and then we have those of you who shop, we have a discount tag system. We have color tags that rotate, so things go to 25% off, then 50% off, then 75% off. It's a very successful way for us to move. And then if you read anything about retail post-COVID, shrinkage through shoplifting is a major factor as well. So that, 35% is between discounting, shrinkage, and there's very little that we're compared to what we're putting out that we're pulling back off that doesn't make it through the 75%. A couple of shopping carts, and if there's furniture that goes through the 75% off cycle, we're all like, oh yeah, we can see why that is. But usually the staff really wants to filter that stuff out.
Thank you.
So yeah, we were averaging around $200,000 most months, and then pricing $300, $350. But you can also see that production plateaued, right? They weren't able to hit the higher production goals that we had set, our staff. But the encouraging thing is, starting in June, we did finally start to exceed that, with September being the greatest growth. So we're encouraged that the changes that we've been making, and everybody's been working really hard, is going to help us get more material out in the sales floor and not put into our overflow storage. I'm not going to go through these detailed strategic goals, but thank you to Tompkins County for publishing your strategic plan. We went through it, and we see that we can really help with a number of them. But toward the end, in the climate change mitigation and resiliency, there's one that says implement near-term strategies found in the local solid waste management plan. And I understand that, I think that's still under review with the DEC. But in there are a number of near-term listed in the 2023 to 2025 segments that Finger Lakes Reuse is actively doing. Would really love to dig into these and see how we can help with these. We're already helping with a number of them. But one I want to highlight is to continue to collaborate with community reuse centers. That's our model, CRC, to expand reuse education and programming, support the development of wholesale hubs. That's a working warehouse instead of the storage warehouse model that we have, and increased infrastructure where possible. So that's 2023 to 2025 in that plan, and just wanted to highlight that. Also, I gave this presentation recently, and at the end they said, this slide wasn't in there, but they said, so are you a waste reduction organization or are you a workforce development organization? And so created this slide to show we're both. We're marrying these two together, and it's offering community engagement, leadership development, enterprise development, economic development, and many other positives. Here, we have a definition in here of what our hubs and exchanges are, this comprehensive reuse system that we're hoping to develop and promote. Using our 16 years and my 24 years of experience funded by the county to divert materials through reuse. And we really want to develop a comprehensive and just system. We want to be really protective of the workforce. So happy to talk at length about what that could look like, and something we want to develop in partnership. But the hubs are a system or a network of large warehouses where there's activity happening. Right now we're storing stuff. We have grant money for a warehouse manager and warehouse coordinator and 2 warehouse staff to start processing that stuff, and we're moving forward with that, but we really need a permanent warehouse for that to happen. And then the exchanges are reuse centers, but also thrift stores. I mean, there's an enormous network already of places for materials to flow through. The hubs could feed not just Finger Lakes Reuse, but numerous, even for-profit enterprises, empty storefronts on the commons. I just counted 11 there when I walked through last week. So this is some of our impacts this year. 86 employees, which is 65 FTEs. We expect to do at least $2.5 million in sales, which is going to generate nearly $200,000 in sales tax, which is $100,000 in local money just this year. We've recirculated nearly 800,000 items, 2,200 items a day. Oh, that was last year. And last year I served 600 customers daily. And we have, this is a very conservative 5-year projection. Assuming 1 physical expansion, we expect it will likely be more than that with the need, with the supply, with the interest from Cornell University. They really want something that's going to serve their students. We're looking at rural communities. There's just, with what's happening with Southworks, there's lots and lots of potential, but we expect to do, just with 1 expansion, $22 million in sales over the next 5 years. That would generate $1.75 million in sales tax, which would be $472,000 just for Tompkins County. I was able to get to figure out your complicated calculation of how sales tax is broken down so that I could understand that.
You figured it out?
I did. I had Joe Mariana.
The code?
Joe Mariana gave me the at least what I understand. I'm happy to vet that with anyone who's an expert. But that's what I wanted to show, and really want to open it up for questions. And we've been working really hard to try to make this work, and would like to continue to build this momentum. It's an extraordinarily popular organization, and our programs are popular, and we just want to build on that in partnership with you.
Great, thank you for the presentation. Any questions or comments from the Amanda?
Well, thank you. You know I love reuse. I love shopping there. I love donating things there.
Thank you.
So I mean, you talked about the hubs and exchanges, and I mean, that sounds amazing. I guess my question is, how do you make that happen? How do you, what do you,
we're stepping toward that all the time. We've been our growth has been forced by the public continuing to bring us more donations, so we've had to figure out the business of it. We recognize that the sale of used materials in a local market, we get the most dollars per pound or per item, as opposed to sending it. Traditional thrift often sends overflow into out-of-state markets in bales, and they get a much lower per ton rate. We are doing that too. Last year we sold, I think we sent 23 tractor trailer loads into out-of-state markets, which is a very opaque industry. So we would prefer not to do that, especially when we identify that there's need right here in our county and in our region. So I think our first step is to probably try to figure out how we can retail more, and at the same time, our warehouses are officially full. We got an email yesterday that the donation volume is so intense that we have over 1,000 pallets in storage. We sent out 1,200 last year into out-of-state markets, but we don't have it, and that's the sale of those materials through tractor trailers is covering the cost of the warehouses, but the warehouses are full. So we now have stuff outside under tarps, which is terrible. And what we need to do, I think we calculated last week, if we could process, what is it, 1.5 pallets more per day, then we wouldn't be putting more into storage right at current levels. But asking our staff to figure out how to do that is challenging. But we're close. And we think that if we can get a warehouse where we're processing the material to send it back packaged and ready to go, not just to our reuse centers, but also we just did a session with Buffalo Street Books and Autumn Leaves and Family Reading Partnership where they sorted through our overflow books that we're sending into out-of-state markets. Are these of value to you? And so we went through a couple of pallets and were able to get a few $100s worth of books just in a couple-hour session first time around, trying to figure out what that would look like, what kind of books would each of those businesses want that we could set aside that they could just pick up and get them to at a wholesale rate that would be better than what we would make if we were sending it into tractor trailers. So building it up that way.
That's fascinating. I guess I didn't know. So people donate books to you, but you don't have a books.
Yeah, we do. We have a bookstore up at our a book department where we expanded during COVID in the former Ace Hardware / Joann Fabric space.
Okay.
So there's books, household items, and refurbished computers in that space.
Okay.
This came from there. It's an outdated Robert's Rules, but it was helpful.
That's great. Got to have Robert's Rules. Yeah, I mean, I love books, and so that's fascinating. But do you work at all with the Friends of the Library book sale? I mean, because that's what I think of as book reuse in this town.
So when we were bursting at the seams when we were just up at Trip Hammer Marketplace in 2014, and the Ithaca Reuse Center building was on the market, and we had been looking for some sort of way to expand. We didn't have the money to do it, but John Novar, rest in peace, John, was very creative in making a deal with us where we only put a couple $1,000s down, and he held the mortgage for 5 years. And we were able to establish our business down there and demonstrate that there A, was enough demand, and B, was enough supply, both of which we were pretty sure but weren't quite sure. And now, we've kind of blown the roof off of both sides of that. And we were getting free technical assistance from this organization called the Cascade Alliance, which primarily the information was and the expertise was coming from a St. Vincent de Paul in Eugene, Oregon, that has, at the time they had 14 thrift stores. I think they closed one during COVID, in and around the city of Eugene, in a market that's about 3 to 4 times the size of Tompkins County, and there's also 9 Goodwills in that market. So that's just an example of, the ceiling on potential marketplace. And they asked us when they came in and helped us with our opening of the Ithaca Reuse Center, why aren't you selling clothes? Why aren't you selling books? Because from a thrift perspective, it's low-hanging fruit in terms of dollars and turning it around. And I said, well, we really wanted to form without competing with anyone. We really were trying to find areas and materials that weren't being served. And that was something that was really important to Barb when we were initially opening. And he said, if it's hitting the landfill, it's fair game, isn't it? And I said, well, we are a waste reduction agency. So we went around and we talked to people. Yeah. We talked to the county. We talked to Friends of the Library. And they said, actually, we're filling a dumpster every week with books that are either too many titles, and we would love you to get this going. And would you take our overflow? And we said, we'd love to. And after about a year, we said, would you take our overflow? And they said, sure, we'll take your overflow. And we sent them a pallet. And then the next week, we sent them another pallet. And they said, stop. And I think books are a great example of how this is a very invisible waste stream, all of these reusable materials. And the fact that we're operating, plus the Friends of the Library book sale, one of the largest sales in the country, twice a year, they empty that thing out into tractor trailers and it leaves. We also work with thrift books. We work with the same buyer they do that sells them for a penny online or whatever, so.
Right, that's great. And then last comment, just, as an environmentalist, I mean, this just, for me, points to the fact that we're buying and making too much stuff. Like, people don't need to go out and buy a brand new sweater when you can get one that may be lightly used, or you might have 7 sweaters in your closet, you don't necessarily need to buy a new one. And I don't feel like that about books. I think you should buy as many books as possible, particularly from local authors. But I think you're just pointing out, like, what everybody here already knows is that, there's so much consumption, and that I think you're doing the good work of following up with all of that consumption, that people, I personally think need to cut back on. So that's why I love shopping at Reuse, because you can get that, like, I'm buying something new, but it's not really new. So, yeah.
Exactly. I don't remember how many years ago, and I don't remember the woman's name. It was Annie something, but way back she did this. It was the story of stuff. I don't know if people remember that. And it was, it was about just stop buying stuff. And, but it was explaining where at a time when a lot of people really didn't think about it, you're taking all these resources from the earth that are, most of them are not renewable, or they can't renew fast enough, and we're making stuff that we don't know what to do with. And so I had a question. So on the last things that you talked about, the reuse impacts, and so for instance, diverted from landfill, 2.7 million pounds, and then when you say the 25, 29 projected, so that's not per year, that would be?
That's a 5-year, yeah.
That would be 5 years? Okay, but just.
Also, I think that's extremely conservative.
So it's almost 10 pounds, or sorry, it's almost 10 times what looks like what you're planning on doing in that 5-year period that you're doing in 1 year now. So so it sounds like about twice as much per year you're projecting, or ramping up to almost twice as much per year?
Well, yeah, except for I think it'll be more by the end of the 5 years. But yes, so this model is assuming one physical expansion that has kind of a hybrid of retail and some of this working warehouse component.
And you mentioned about employees that you have 65 full-time employees, and then you're hoping to get up, or projected to get up to 76 employees, and you do provide a living wage?
Yes, we've been a certified living wage employer since the beginning. Really proud of that. I think the impact in our 2025 budget is $165,000. We're planning to stay on that. We pay health insurance, and we've always paid 100% of health insurance. And we started a retirement program, a 3% match for employees who've been with us for a year, I think two autumns ago.
Okay, and the sales tax is for 2024, 198.8. Is that projected, or is that so far?
That's projected through the year end.
Okay.
Yeah. Based on doing about $2.5 million in sales.
Okay. I see Randy has his hand up. Randy?
Yes, thanks for the presentation, Diane and Robin, and all the information is very, very, very helpful. What you showed your data on the number of donations that are happening, and it has continued to climb. Do you have a consultant in mind, or somebody to come look at how you could process it better, or I mean, I know financing is always an issue, But have you looked at, ways to really manage product that comes through, but also to the point of maybe it's not reusable, but it could be a collection location for other items that, so people don't need to go someplace else. And you could actually, there'd be a charge for it. Any thoughts of those kinds of things?
Well, we did just have, we have a grant right now from the Appalachian Regional Commission for capacity building because they really want us to stabilize what we're doing so that we can share with other communities throughout the region. And so we used some of the consultant money that in that grant to bring in a consultant who had been the longtime executive director of a great organization called Community Forklift. And we actually had her focus exactly on our point of donation through processing to get stuff on the sales floor, because we know that one of the ways to process more material is by increasing our production. But it's our current setup is a very high pressure situation where the donors and the customers can all see the people that are in the household production area, and it's just a lot of interruptions and a lot of kind of chaos. So trying to figure out, so we're waiting for her report, but also we recognize that just from working with trainees over the last decade, if we could provide a more stable environment that doesn't have the public mixed in, which is really kind of a random factor from day to day, and it could be a more calm and controlled environment, we think our trainees could really thrive and focus, and we could actually focus our expertise depending on, we do such a wide array of materials that being able to have one expert kind of mentoring several people who are processing, fill in the blank material, whether it's, and we could expand then in that warehouse environment to things that I've talked with Leo about, like mattresses, and because there are markets for components in the mattresses if we could separate them out instead of the way that they're currently being handled. Did that answer?
Thank you.
Okay.
You did. I lost track of the times I've been there this year. I've been on both sides of that door going in. And the people have been very friendly to work with. So I just wanted to let you know that they do a good job of evaluating materials. It's always disappointing when you know they can't take something, but and you've got to go someplace else. So currently your funding from the county comes all through the Recycling and Solid Waste Center. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct. Well, no, we have two other types of funds. We have an opioid grant for our workforce development, and we did get a little bit of ARPA money, so that I think we may have spent down, I'm not sure. I think it was $60,000 or $70,000. So we got a little bit of that. Okay. But primarily over the years, yes, huge thanks. We're here because of Recycling and Materials Management Department, and they've been, straining to support our growing operation. I brought some numbers in 2014. Tompkins County gave us, we contracted for $117,000, and we were kind of at that level for a number of years. In 2024, in the last couple of years, we've been at $190,000, which is an increase of $73,000 or 62%. So we're really, really grateful for that. Our budget in 2014 was $822,000, and now it's $3.7 million. So our budget's grown 353% during that time. So it's part of the strain that we've had, is trying to figure out how to balance everything.
Yeah, I look at Finger Lakes Reuse as a strategic partner in what we're doing in Tompkins County, and you've done a great job in growing it. And I know Leo's there, and there's an RFP scheduled to go out. Will it address the things that that's happening, or that Finger Lakes Reuse is doing now? Is Leo, are you there? Can you answer that?
Yeah, hi. Well, first let me just recognize some of the accomplishments that Finger Lakes Reuse has accomplished over the years. I started here around 2006, 2007 when Diane was just getting started, and her team and what they've turned this into over the years is incredible in my mind. And that kind of growth is going to cause some issues, certainly with operations and incoming material and handling material. So. With that said, I mean, certainly our department needs to continue supporting, their efforts down there. And the one thing I want to stress too, and I think I mentioned it at the committee meeting last month, was, and this is on the heels of Diane's slide where she talked about landfill space and what's available. That space over the years, upcoming years, is just going to become more and more valuable. And what happens with that is our landfill expenses are going to become higher and higher. There's a proposed increase in our budget. I talked about last month. So disposal is going to be going up. It's going to continue to go up, and that just justifies the waste diversion, waste reduction methods and means even more. So that work that they do down there is just going to become more and more valuable in the upcoming years, no question. Randy, maybe if I missed something there, ask again. Questions? You made a couple points, but.
No, that's good. I just wanted to give you a chance to comment on it. So
yeah, no, thank you.
And the timeline for the RFP, do you have that?
We are hopefully zeroing in onto it. Do we have an update on the timeline? It'd be nice to have it drafted, final draft at the end of the month, I think we're shooting for. Yeah.
And so it's an RFP and it's for 2025?
Yes.
And
yes.
So
I think we're proposing a 3-year term. We're just trying to figure out how we address year to year as far as scope of services.
Will part of that RFP be requiring that any agency provides a living wage to its employees?
I believe the current county policy, Norma might be able to help with this, but yes, I mean, it certainly goes out that we're living wage.
Or do you know that, Norma?
I don't know if it's mandatory. Is it?
Living wage?
Yeah, in all of our contracts.
In all of our contracts.
Yeah.
So that will be part of it?
It will.
Okay.
Yes. Yep.
All right, so looking at finishing it end of October, and then it'll go out November?
I think it would be on the street
maybe?
For 30 days. And then we'll have a review process and through committee to accept the RFP and, yeah.
Okay, so it might go out to the public in November then?
To bid.
To bid?
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
Okay, great. Thank you. I appreciate you giving us that update.
Did I miss
and working
anything,
on
Kat?
that. And Kat McCarthy has joined us here.
Sorry,
Thank you.
yeah, I think Leo covered most of it.
Okay, great. Any other questions? We should wrap up the reuse presentation. I just wanted to ask you real quick, because we do want to stay on time to end it around noon, but just wanted to ask you some of the things that I was hearing of things you're needing in the future is ability to process more efficiently, whether it's, and there's a number of factors you said in that, floor space, warehouse space, any other bullet points that you want to put out there of things you're needing to expand and
Yeah, so we're working on our budget right now. We're looking at two scenarios. One is if we don't take an expansion step. Right now we have these materials in storage that really can become a liability if we can't get them out into other markets. What we'd like to do is get as many of them into this market. We think that there is the market space for them. But our scenario where we're not expanding, we are in the 5-year model, the losses compound. It's really problematic. It's been very stressful the last couple of years. That's an understatement. I'm just trying to be civil here. But we have an expansion model where we're actually looking at a specific property and using those metrics and really doing it. We have a wonderful CFO, Tim Page, who's done a deep dive on sales per square foot and sales per labor hour and all those things. And we're looking at a high visibility site and using some modeling on that where we are going to need some substantial investment in 2025, but then it shows that we become much more healthy very quickly. So that's kind of where we're at right now.
Great, thank you. And as Amanda said, like, buy less stuff, but if you're going to buy stuff, go. It's easy to be on your phone or your computer and buying stuff on Amazon, going to local stores to buy stuff, but if people get into the habit, go to your centers first, see if they have it, and they often have what you need.
Yeah, and this is our strategic planning process, so we really are looking to our community. I mean, that's what we've done from the beginning, to kind of harvest the intellectual capital that's here in this community to build a model that can become a global model. And I think Tompkins County is recognized as a leader because of the investment it's made in Finger Lakes reuse. We've inspired many other communities, and I would really love criticisms, questions. So please, if there's something that's in the back of your mind, please reach out to us. And my plan is to, especially for legislators, to give everybody a chance one-on-one to talk, to keep talking to Leo and Kat. They've been through this presentation a couple times already, but we're going to keep trying to figure out what our best path is forward.
And I do appreciate you making time, and I know that takes time out of your work to come here and also to go around and to share the great things that you guys are doing. Thank you.
Thanks so much.
Thank you, Diane and Robin.
And can I just set what I said straight, because I was mistaken. It is not mandatory that we pay living wage. It is it's something that's considered during the bid process and the review.
It's a factor.
It's a factor,
okay.
Indeed. Yep. I just want to make sure that was clear.
Sure. Thank you for adding that. And we're going to segue right into Norma. Any report from county administration?
I have no reports today.
Okay, great. And then we have Katie Bergella, our Commissioner of our Department of Planning and Sustainability. And hi, Katie. Do you have any report for us today?
Yes, I've got a couple of items that I wanted to make you aware of. The first one is actually going to Facilities and Infrastructure Committee this week, but since we have such overlap with energy items and a lot of our facilities work, I just wanted to let you all know as well that Tompkins County has been awarded $825,000 of funding through NYSERDA's Clean Energy Communities program, and that is in large part to phase 1 of the Green Facilities Initiative that the county has funded, and the high impact actions that come out of that work. Haley Delisle has been tracking all of the points that you can get for that program, and has qualified us, our work has qualified us for this large grant. So that's exciting. The county's also achieved a designation as a 5-star community. So that's great too. And so that money, in consultation with administration and the F&I committee, we are intending on applying that money toward an item from the phase 2 of the Green Facilities program for 132 kilowatt solar canopy for EV charging up at Whole Health at Brown Road. So that we are hoping that those solar arrays would be installed and operational in 2025. That's one item. And then the second one.
Congratulations.
Yeah, it's exciting. I mean, the county should, we all did it together. It's exciting. But the other one is that we did put in a proposal to FEMA to fund an update of the hazard mitigation plan that gets updated every 5 years. Our last one was adopted in 2021. We're requesting $165,000 from FEMA to do this work. And we anticipate starting that work in 2025, assuming that we get this grant money. We are in conversations currently with the New York State Division of Homeland Security and Emergency Services to understand they have a new digital platform and some data sets that they'll be providing to us this time around. They've kind of updated some of their methodology on how to do these plans. And the outcome will be a multi-jurisdictional hazard mitigation plan that complies with all the regulatory requirements. And one thing I just wanted to note to everybody, after the last round in 2021, we've been hosting quarterly meetings with all the municipalities. They all have representatives who attend to talk through how it's going, implementing the actions in the plan. And that's been really a great convening of people, and it kind of has prepared us to do this new update with really a robust group already in place, ready to focus on the issues. So that's good news as well.
That's great, thank you. Any questions on the update? And so I'll just excuse me. So I just want to reiterate, I was trying to take notes quickly. So we were awarded $825,000 from a NYSERDA grant. Did you say? Or as an award?
Yeah, it's called an award. It's through NYSERDA's Clean Energy Communities program. It's kind of incentive levels for doing certain high impact actions. If you get enough points, you can apply for this, then the next. And we actually got 3 different awards that came to a total of $825,000. And, you know, fortunately, we have a forward-looking legislature who has this this phase 2 of the Green Facilities Plan in place. So we are able to identify a great project with great emissions reduction that is also a qualified project under this program, and we could treat it as one grant so that it makes it easier to administer as well.
And for the solar canopy, can you remind me, is that energy, will that be to charge EVs or electric vehicles, or will that?
It'll be for charging EVs, yeah. But there is some thought that there could be some resiliency components of that during a grid outage or something. There's, you know, there is potential to use the battery storage of those vehicles towards some other charging need that we might have. That's kind of an ongoing thing we're looking at.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. All right, so moving on, one thing I did make a note of, you talked about, you know, the hazard mitigation plan, and there's been some talk at the EMC and also the CASE board, the Climate and Sustainable Energy Board, about wanting to help in any way that they can, whether it's through their boards or to help, you know, leverage the community to add their expertise or their input, and also to help, because, you know, it really made sense when I saw one of the emails going around, I think it was from Reggie Teasley, about having kind of like a corpse, C-O-R-P, a core of people in the community that would be also part of this, because looking at the devastation from the things, that have happened recently with, say, for instance, Hurricane Helene, just to have as many people that are ready, in the community to help out, I think, is probably would be helpful. I don't know what you think.
That's great. That's very helpful. I do think a lot of that type of work really is under Department of Emergency Responses purview.
That's their purview of that?
Yeah, because
Okay.
these hazard mitigation plans are really to prepare you so that a disaster won't be as terrible for your community. So it's a lot of replacing culverts and shoring up walls and that kind of thing. But it's also an interesting thing of thinking about coordinating a volunteer corps as part of that as well. So appreciate that input.
Thank you. And next we have Department of Recycling Materials Management, and we have Leo and Kat here. And there's a capital summary, that's just an information item, so let us know if you have any questions. And then we have a resolution, so why don't we do the resolution and then see if there's any updates from your department. So there's a resolution, acceptance of grant funding for the New York State Department of Environmental Conservation, and this is ID number 12805. Can somebody move that? Moved by, I'm not sure who, Amanda, and seconded by Veronica. And would you like to, Leo or Kat, tell us about this?
Yeah, maybe we'll do it in both, actually. So I had a really late night last night. It's been a long time since I was up until 3 o'clock in the morning, but we welcomed our 7th grandbaby last night.
Oh, congratulations.
Yeah. So I'm a little tired, so I'll probably let Kat chime in here. We applied for this in October of 2022. Barb was still here. And I'm just really happy that we continued to budget for this grant. So it is budgeted in 2025. I'm thankful for that, because that could have easily slipped off the radar onto it. But Kat has worked on this grant, so I'm going to let her talk about it.
Sure. So the proposed project is reducing food waste in underserved areas in Ithaca, and it's a funding opportunity through the New York State Department of Environmental Conservation through their Municipal Food Scraps Recycling Initiative. This project really is looking at a couple major components, but ultimately we're looking to provide weekly curbside collection of food scraps recycling using a specially equipped pickup truck with work being performed by departmental staff. So testing out another way to make food scraps recycling as convenient as possible for individuals in our community. We would be equipping residents with a toolkit for collection, and then also folding in food waste prevention, education, and engagement through a campaign and a challenge to those two participants to really kind of think higher up the hierarchy as well. So this pilot will help us kind of understand feasibility of what expansion could look like in the community. And it's an 18-month period. It would be concluded by the end of 2026. And there is a match on that project, is about 33%, which is a combination of salary, fringe, contractual, and equipment.
And did you say this is for a feasibility study or to actual implementation?
To conduct a pilot.
A pilot,
for
okay.
collection, yep.
To conduct the pilot, all righty. Any questions? Veronica?
Randy had his hand up first.
Oh, Randy,
Thanks.
then Veronica.
Oh, that's good news. Thanks for sharing that, Kat. Actually, I was speaking to an individual at an event who lives in Cuba Heights, and he was saying that they used to do a food waste scrap collection in his neighborhood, and he lives in a cul-de-sac, and it went away years ago. But he wanted to help. He wanted to know if he could be like a designated person to collect it all, and you guys come pick it up. So I just wanted to share that information. So.
Yeah, have them give us a call. We can talk with them further on to it. One of the things that we really want to achieve with this project is understanding how it can continue once it's done. We have actually, our department, quite a bit of experience with a curbside collection of food scraps. I think we did it for about 3 years, a number of years back, 2015, 2016. But what didn't work well there was a plan to just continue it, whether it's a municipality that takes it over. So one thing that we're going to do is reach out to other towns, villages, and see if, as stakeholders, and see what involvement they want, so they can just better understand the positives, the economics, and all of that. So there's going to be a lot of focus on that. Yeah.
Thank you.
Veronica?
Yeah. This is really exciting. Thank you. I had, and I know a lot of people who will be excited about this pilot. I can't remember details, but I feel like I've heard that there was previously a food scraps curbside collecting pilot in the city. Can you remind us more about that? Or did we learn anything from that could be useful embarking on this?
We learned a lot from it, yeah. I will say we had it planned out really quite well. There wasn't an awful lot of surprises. I forget how many different areas we worked in, but I know we tried to incorporate a bunch of different types of neighborhoods. So we had one area, the village of Trumansburg. We had an area on West Hill. We had an area in the city. We had an area around Bostwick, up in there.
We had some in one of the towns to kind of get a little more rural collection.
Yeah, we tried to touch city, village, town, more rural. Ulysses, I think we had an area out in Ulysses. Yeah, it really was very successful. It can be fairly expensive, but what has to be planned out is the cost avoidance, the economics of it. For instance, if you take the city of Ithaca, will save money on disposal, right? So that food scraps isn't going in to the garbage stream, and they're paying $96 a ton to dispose of it. So they'll see a savings in there, or a cost avoidance in their garbage. And with that said, that will help pay for any additional costs with the food scraps. So we try to understand and work out, those things so we can lay them out, and that's what we're really hoping those municipalities can learn through our planning and the collection. Yeah.
And other things that we took away from the initial pilot were about resident engagement and how to get the community on board, how to reach people, distribution, and how equipment goes out, and the messaging. So quite a bit of information came in from that initial period.
Cool, thank you.
Are any of those areas still being served by curbside pickup, or?
No. Okay. That went away 2018.
Somewhere between 2016 and 2018.
Yeah, we have actually a nice summary that was written on that pilot. We'd be happy to send out to the legislature if you're interested.
Or is it on your website? Or
no. Yeah.
Yeah, you could email. That'd be great. Thank you. And so do we want that to all legislators, or just to? Yeah. Okay. If you don't mind sending that to Brittany, and then we'll send it out to all legislators. So for this pilot program, is that something that you'd be looking at trying to figure out how to continue if it's successful?
We wouldn't recommend the county doing it. We're really hoping that there's going to be a municipality that picks it up and continues it. I mean, I'd love to see the city of Ithaca continue it, not only continue it, but expand on it. And we have plans of getting some individuals from the city sitting with us through the process, through our planning process.
Okay, great.
Cuba Heights is another great municipality because of them operating their own DPW collection of garbage. So when you when you have that, things are much easier to incorporate. Village of Trumansburg, they're in very close to Cuba Compost, so there's not a lot of cost getting it from the collection area to a disposal site. That's important. If you have to travel an hour, that's costly. If you have to travel 5 minutes to get it to a site, the material, then it makes it work.
So you'll be working with those municipalities from the get-go for this program?
We're going to be inviting them to the table, absolutely.
Great,
yeah.
Great. Well, I wish you well and look forward to hearing some updates about that. So this is still on the table. So got a little sidetracked, but it's all, well, actually, most of the questions were about this. So this is on the table, and so any questions before we vote? Look like we're good. All right, so we're voting on resolution acceptance of grant funding from the DEC. And we're going to start with Amanda.
Yes.
Veronica.
Yes.
Greg.
Yes.
Randy.
Yes.
And I'm a yes. That passes unanimously. So thank you for telling us about that, and congratulations.
Thank you.
And is there any other update from your department?
Do you have anything? I think you had a busy morning.
We did.
All right, well, thank you for coming today.
I have a question.
Oh, Randy.
I have a question. Sorry, Leo, I know you're on 2 hours sleep, but you're doing pretty good. I got an email from one of the fire departments. I know he's in touch with Nate about things that they want to dispose for the chemical and old paint process that you folks have set up. I have an appointment for myself on Saturday. It's the Enfield Fire Department, and they have apparently some old chemical that is no longer allowed to be used because of New York state law, and they wanted to dispose of it. And they got a quote for $4,000, so they called you folks, because they know that you have a program for this, but not for municipalities, I don't believe, to see if they could, tag along with what you're doing. And they were told absolutely not. So money is a big issue for all these towns. Is there any program where, because it's going to cost them just to get rid of like 4 or 5 buckets of this stuff, or I'm not sure how much they have, maybe it's some drums, I don't know, that you folks can help them with? I mean, so they're not, because they're just a small entity and it's versus a collection point. So.
Yeah, understood. Yeah, well, I can't imagine really anyone saying absolutely not, but there could have been some miscommunication there somewhere. So our household hazardous waste program is designed for residential. So that's first and foremost. Now, we do also accept material from small quantity generators. That's a commercial type business, or the fire departments would fall into that, where if they're under a certain volume of material, they could go through our program, but the county, our department, doesn't pay for it. Now, I'll check with Nate Bates. He oversees the household hazardous waste program to see if he's heard from Enfield Fire Department. But quite often, we will seek a quote through our contractor, Clean Harbors, where the fire department could drop it off, and then we would make arrangements to have it taken out of their Usually that's a much lesser cost when it's incorporated within, our program. So I'll definitely look into that. But we are restricted as far as not being able to accept and pay for commercial business type material.
And I can just jump in and add that my understanding is that because of the way that program was set up and the manufacturer of that material kind of disappeared at the point in which collection was coming, so they haven't offered ongoing take back of that material. I believe there was also a contact at, I want to say, the state that Nate can share again if that information wasn't shared or isn't available. That's something that we can share again as well, of looking into kind of how other locations are doing it.
Thank you. It was Greg Stevenson who sent me the email, a past legislator as well, but he's also the fire chief. I will forward an email to you, and I'll copy Greg, and then you guys can see if you can help him out. So
Yeah, that'd be great. Yeah, thanks, Randy.
Great, thank you. Oh, I did have one more note about the landfill tour, right, is coming up. Do you want to say a little bit about that?
Yeah, thanks for reminding me on that. I actually meant to bring that up. Yeah, so that's October 30th. I will get an email out to folks that are planning on attending. If I could get a list of who plans to attend as far as legislators, that would be helpful. I'll work with Terry over at planning. I know he's got 2 vehicles reserved right now, and I would expect that would be for legislators. And then we have 3 individuals going from planning, and we're still trying to work out our staff. We have to staff certain positions here, and it's one of those things that everybody kind of wants to go because it's in our field. And yeah, so we're looking forward to that. But again, I'll send out all the details once I get a good distribution list. But it's on Wednesday, October 30th. I expect we'll leave here around 8:45, and we'll be out there. They'll take a group or 2 on the landfill tours while another couple groups are doing the MRF. They're right next to each other, actually. And then they'll switch up, and I know Casella has offered to provide lunch, and there'll be a question period there where we'll be allowed to ask any questions and whatnot. Yeah, looking forward to it. I think it'll be really enjoyable.
Yeah, thank you. And I'll get you the list of legislators who are going.
Great, thanks.
Do you want to bring that up tonight in the peak report? Do you want to? Or do you want me to?
I mean, you can. I'll just send an email.
Okay. I'll also remind folks too at the legislature meeting so you're going to send out an email again asking, or or is it the?
I already asked, and I think I told you
7.
Okay.
So.
You have 7?
Yeah.
Legislators?
So the people who already responded, I'll send an email reminding the legislators.
Okay, great. Yeah, and I'm sorry I can't go to that.
Yeah, that's unfortunate. I think they'll probably be right around 15 or 16 folks, I think, altogether.
Well, have to do it again so other people can go and more of your staff can go.
Yeah, we could do that. We could plan to do that.
Okay, great. All right, well, thank you again for coming and for all the reports. And we'll switch to, or segue next to committee member reports. Any reports from our liaison committees or anything? Okay. And there's a budget transfer, just for information only, from the Department of Planning and Sustainability. Okay, anything else before we adjourn from anybody? All right, well, thank you, everybody, and we are adjourned at 11:32. Thanks, everybody.
12:30.
12:32.
Thank you.
Thanks, Annie.